Hello and welcome to NPC Next Portable Console. I'm John Voorhees, and I've got two wonderful co-hosts with me today. Wonderful co-host, number one, is Brendon Bigley. Hey, Brendon.
Hello. Wow, wonderful. That's really nice. It's a nice way to be greeted this morning. Thank you, John.
And the wonderful and maybe wonderous Mr. Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Oh, wondrous. I like that. Hi, John. Hi, Brendon. Hello.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, we are about, this is the behind the scenes part of the show where we tell everybody that we are actually going into the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. So we are recording a couple of days earlier than normal.
Yes.
So there may be some news that comes up while we are away enjoying our turkey dinners. But hopefully we haven't missed too much, because I think the news cycle is starting to slow down as we record this on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
Except for Anbernic, I'm guessing. Well,
we'll get to it.
They never slow down. Anbernic.
We'll get to Anbernic, and we'll get to Miyoo, who I think also might break the rules, but we'll see.
Yes. I mean, I don't think that they're too concerned about the Thanksgiving holiday in China, but we do have some follow up from our last episode. Okay. And I want to talk a little bit about a poll that I did, because, Federico had this, I don't know if I would quite call it a prediction. It was more like an open question.
You can call it a prophecy.
It was prophecy.
Yes.
Okay. A handheld gaming prophecy.
Vatistradamus over here.
That's right. There aren't too many of those. But yeah, he wondered aloud whether there would be a Steam Deck set-top box created before an Xbox handheld showed its face on the earth. Okay. And I turned that into a poll both on Mastodon and Threads, and we got some interesting results. On Mastodon, 57% of our listeners said that the Steam Deck console would come first.
Okay.
To 43% for the Xbox.
Okay.
On Threads, though, it was the exact opposite. 73% have faith in the Xbox handheld, compared to 27% on the Steam Deck.
Okay.
Now, I look at these numbers, Federico, and I say to myself, I think that the Mastodon people understood where you were coming from with your prophecy more so than the people on Threads. I think Threads got a little bit of algorithmic drive-by, and a bunch of
Steam haters on Threads.
Steam haters and Xbox fans just showed up and voted and stuffed the ballot box. But I'm with you. I kind of think, in a way, that a Steam Deck console is more likely than an Xbox handheld, at least in the near term.
Well, we're gonna talk about big companies getting back into handhelds later in the show. So
they're taking their time.
We'll see.
Yeah, I have my own prediction about how this is going to play out, but I do think if Phil Spencer is saying that the Xbox handheld is a few years out, then I think it's very likely that Steam and Valve will try and release a console before then.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm coming from too.
Yeah,
years.
Years could be beginning of 2026. That is technically years away.
True.
Even though it's like 14 months.
It also sounds a lot more like 2027. To me. But.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a bit. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Right.
In terms of follow-up, we also have some leaks from, I'm looking at an article from The Verge. So it's been rumored for a while that Valve has been working on a new VR headset. Their previous Steam VR headset is many years old at this point. From a technological perspective, is way behind, the kind of image quality, the kind of lenses that you can get in other headsets. But they're working on a new one. And so it's been rumored for a while that Valve was also working on these new VR controllers for the new headset that were found in some code base on the Steam store. You know how these things go. People find little API references, that sort of thing. But now it seems that in addition to the VR controllers, that Valve is also working on a follow-up to the much criticized, by some people beloved, original Steam controller. It seems like they're working on a Steam controller too. Now, if you're not familiar with the Steam controller, it was this arguably odd-shaped controller with two giant touchpads that sort of wanted to blend classic PC gaming, with the mouse with the cursor, in a more traditional controller form factor for consoles. Now, obviously, you can see that controller did not go exactly well, but you can see the heritage of that controller in something like the Steam Deck, for example, with the two touchpads. Right. Now, I am very keen to see Valve try again
Yeah.
and we mentioned this on the show, like what would a Steam Deck without the screen in the middle look like as a controller? I am very curious to see what Valve does if the Steam Controller 2 is actually real. I think there's a definite market, especially, I'm just gonna say it, but especially if you're making a console, you're gonna need a controller, right? So,
Well, yeah.
So
Ayo.
I'm just saying, it would be a very nice ecosystem to have a Steam Deck VR2, and a Steam console with a controller, and you got a pretty nice ecosystem going up against Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. But yeah, this is just a rumor for now. We'll see. The person who found the references claimed that they are now entering mass productions, both types of controllers. So the controller for the VR and the controller for the Steam Controller 2. So hey, maybe over the next few months we'll see something.
That makes it sound like they're getting ready for something at CES to me.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That does, yeah, you're totally right. Which we'll be at. Have we said that on the show?
We have not officially, but here, hey, look, breaking news from
Yeah.
Brendon. He and I are heading out to Las Vegas
Oh my God. I am
for CES. We're looking
I'm
forward
so
to
excited.
You boys are going to Vegas. For CES.
We are.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to get my hands on so many weird handhelds and then probably get the sniffles after. It's going to be great.
it. Yeah, we'll come home. We'll have the flu, maybe a little COVID. Who knows?
It's good.
Get your shots in advance, baby.
Yep, I've got mine. I got mine a couple of weeks ago. I'm specifically thinking about that trip.
This is obviously going to
Yeah.
be so exciting for the show. I mean, the fact that you guys will be together at that sort of event is exciting in and of itself. But also, I think
Yeah.
it'll give us an opportunity to maybe, I don't know, ramp up our video content during the week of CES. You guys will be there. You will be testing a bunch of handhelds. And, John, you got a powerful computer now that you can test this stuff with.
I do.
You have a loan from Apple, with the fancy MacBook Pro. So you can throw all the video files at it, and that would be nice.
You know what? The best thing about those fancy computers is they just do all the work for you, Federico. You throw those files at them, and out pops a perfect video.
Use AI or whatever. That's how these things go these days. But yes, that is the first bit of breaking news from today's episode. The next bit, I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Where this came
Brendon,
from.
please contextualize
Yeah.
this, whatever this is.
Sure. I saw that, like, literally as I was just reading through our doc this morning, I was like, I wonder if any news broke. And I saw that Tencent and Intel jointly announced a new handheld coming next year called the Sunday Dragon 3D1, which is their words.
Is this the name?
Just to be
the
clear.
Sunday Dragon.
The Sunday Dragon 3D1, yes.
Okay.
That's a good name.
Yeah. Their words in the marketing, quote, the world's first glasses-free 3D
Oh my
handheld.
God, is this a
Wow.
3DS?
It's imagine.
No, it's the first
It's a-
one.
No.
That's what 3DS, Federico. Imagine the 3DS, but with one screen
Okay.
that was 11 inches
Okay.
and 120 hertz
Okay.
in a form factor that resembles the Nintendo Switch with detachable
Is
controls.
it really 11 inches?
Is this
It's an
11
11
inches?
inch
Oh
display.
oh my God!
Oh
Look
my
at the video.
gosh.
It's giant.
Yeah. You should look at the photos. We'll have the links in the show notes. It is a wild looking
my
thing.
God.
For me, and we talked about this on the show. The Legion Go
Yeah.
stretches
Oh, yeah.
my capability when it comes to screen size in a handheld. Like the idea of calling this a handheld feels laughable to me. At
Well,
11
you
inches.
are holding it in your hands.
That is true. It is hand.
It is
held,
hand.
I
yes,
guess. Yeah.
yes. I mean, this will probably require some kind of chest strap just to like
Maybe
hold-
two pillows, maybe two gaming pillows.
You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta have a whole gaming bed instead of just a
One
Yes.
for each corner.
Oh
Right.
my
Pillars of support. Totally.
Oh my God. So, okay. So 11 inches running Lunar Lake,
Mhm.
32 gigs of RAM, glasses free 3D.
1 terabyte of storage.
Yeah, they're also obviously updating a bunch of Tencent produced
Sure.
games to support this device. Will anyone else support it? Unsure. The thing that is actually the most interesting to me, just in thinking about this, is it will, ironically, probably be the best place to play 3DS games emulated.
I mean, yeah.
Because you will be, 11 inches is a lot of screen real estate to have
Yes.
both screens at once. and you'll be able to use the 3D hypothetically in a way that is very reminiscent of the actual 3DS. So it's strangely enough, despite trying to scrub the 3DS from the world's memory in their marketing, maybe actually the best place to play 3DS
I
games.
really hope you get to
not
see
on
this
original
at
hardware.
CES. I really hope there's some
dying to.
kind of demo station for the Sunday Dragon 3D one. Also,
Yes.
like, why is the name just makes me think of, oh yeah, it's the Sunday Dragon 3D one. I just don't get the one at the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. It feels like it should have a question mark at the end.
Is it the Sunday
I don't
Dragon
know,
3D one?
Yeah. Which one is that?
Okay. Well, thank you, Tencent
Oh,
and
boy.
Intel. Okay, we gotta talk about more serious breaking news.
Yes.
There are literally zero details. Well, almost zero. Approaching zero details about this. Bloomberg is reporting that Sony changed their minds apparently, and they may be working on a proper return to the handheld market with a portable console that plays PlayStation 5 games anywhere you want without streaming, without cloud gaming, just play on a PlayStation 5 portable device, and it's likely years away from launch.
And that's literally all
And
we
that's all-
know.
that's all we have.
they reported.
That's all we have. So the rest is speculation. Now,
Yes.
this is obviously very exciting. We have mentioned before how in some ways the PSP and the PS Vita are the reasons we three know each other and why we're doing the show together. So the idea of Sony returning to the handheld market with not a PlayStation Portal basically is very exciting. Now, now this rumor goes back to a few months ago when we started hearing the first speculation about Sony maybe making a handheld at some point that could run PS4 games. And we wondered, but
Right.
like, why PS4 games when we are now in the PS5 era? And so Bloomberg is now saying, no, this handheld likely years away. So let's say it's 2026 or 2027. It'll run PS5 games. Now, how could this be possible? Now, this is my speculation, and this is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna guess that, assuming this comes out in 2026, so very pretty aggressive timeline if this comes out in 2026. Now, PS5 games, they are designed usually with support for lower or higher frame rates and dynamic resolutions. Like all PS5 games, they don't always run at 1080 or 1440 or 4K. They, starting with a base model PS5, all games support dynamic resolutions to maybe go a little bit lower when necessary if they want to hit 30 FPS or they want to hit 60 FPS. Resolution is not set in stone. So if you think about it this way, a couple of years away, or maybe 3 years away, by that time, it'll be relatively accessible to have a handheld with RDNA 4 or RDNA 4.5 graphics. So that's the next. RDNA 4 will likely be shown off, and you guys will probably see it at CES. You guys will probably see the Z2 Extreme, for example, with RDNA 4 graphics in it. But one can assume that in a couple of years, we'll have both RDNA 4 and RDNA 4.5. Obviously, Sony has been working with AMD, so they will get access to that sort of technology. So that kind of performance in a handheld with pretty low power consumption. PS5 games are designed to support dynamic resolutions and lower frame rates. So if necessary, you can take a God of War, you can take a Astrobot and say, well, don't run it at 1440, run it at 1080 or run it at 720 and try to hit 40 FPS instead of 60. In addition, for the PS5 Pro, Sony created PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Resolution. That is the upscaling technology made by Sony that lets you, it's basically NVIDIA DLSS or what's it called, AMD FSR. It allows you, PSSR allows you to upscale PlayStation 5 games. That's how most PS5 Pro games can run at 60 FPS while also being native 4K. When you consider all these things together, 2.5, maybe even 3 years away, I could see a handheld that runs, it's got a 1080p screen maybe, runs PS5 games, has RDNA 4 graphics, supports PSSR, and lets you play PS5 games. I could see that sort of thing.
Do you think it would output 4K to a TV if plugged into a TV?
Well, if Sony wants to keep selling also the PS5, why would they let you dock it?
True. Well, maybe they piggyback off the PS5 and they make the handheld a sort of accessory to the console, where you need the console to kind of juice up the games that you have on the handheld. I could see
That's
that.
an interesting thought. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Almost like an external graphics
Like an
card.
eGPU kind of
Yeah.
situation
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. My feeling about this is when they say years away, and Phil Spencer is also saying years away, I think we're gearing up for the next generation of consoles.
Interesting.
And I think both Microsoft and Sony are looking at the next generation of consoles, seeing how the introduction of the Nintendo Switch and the Steam Deck has changed player choice pretty dramatically, allowing players to play all of their games anywhere, and saying we need to build that into the foundational layer of the next generation of consoles. If there's going to be a next generation of consoles, we need to adhere to player expectation. So I would guess that whatever the next Xbox is, whatever the next PlayStation, the PlayStation 6, this will be an additional element to that. It will be considered like an upsell in some ways for a lot of people. I think on the Xbox side, because so much of that stuff can be streamed via the cloud. So much of that stuff is being developed for PC simultaneously. So it kind of solves your problem, Federico, about dynamic resolutions and being able to fit on multiple different kinds of hardware units. But I think at the end of the day, these two devices are going to launch relatively soon, or are relatively close to one another, and will be competing directly. That's my guess from 1,000-foot view, at least. Just getting a Bloomberg report with almost no information. That's my feeling about it. I think this news and the Microsoft news coming out around the same time is not a coincidence. I think there is somebody in a PR department at one of those two companies throwing this information out there on purpose
I think that's
just to kind of help shareholders out in some ways.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And in the meantime, we'll have the Switch too, and maybe we'll even get our Steam Deck console that we want. So, I think we'll be in good shape over the next few years. I think it's interesting too, Federico, that where these rumors started was with something that was going to play PS4 games. Because didn't this report say that originally the Portal was supposed to play games directly? I think that it was originally being considered for what it would do. And perhaps that's where the PS4 came in, that the Portal was going to be some kind of PS4 handheld, and instead they've went the direction of streaming. And now there's, the possibility that we may see some games, we may see some cloud streaming with the Portal as well. So, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wild.
I don't know. We'll
Wild.
see. But yeah, I mean, next couple of years will be really interesting with both Microsoft.
Next portable console, guys.
Next portable console.
Lots of portable consoles.
Lots of them.
Yes.
All right. So, we got plenty of handheld news to cover. First, I want to mention that the first impressions of the Ayn Odin Portal are out. Go check out the video from Russ at Retro Game Corp. The display looks incredible. I'm just gonna say this.
Looks unbelievable. He did a lot of comparisons.
Did a lot of comparisons between the Retroid Pocket 5 and the Portal, and the Portal and the Odin 2. I mean, it's a giant screen. It's the size of a Steam Deck, basically, but it's OLED, and it's so bright and so vibrant. I am so excited to get my Portal. I am maybe a little concerned about the slightly flat design of the Portal compared to the Odin 2. But I believe that Russ mentioned, I believe Ayn is already working on optional grips for it if you want to make it a little more contoured, a little more rounded. And I'm sure there'll be a whole aftermarket on Etsy and Amazon for compatible grips. But yeah, that screen and that performance, once again, the Portal has got the same chipset as the Odin 2, so you can upscale GameCube, PS2 up to 3x, to hit that 1080p resolution, and it just runs everything. But now it does that in a much bigger form factor with an OLED screen.
It's still not clear when this is coming out. I think that Russ speculated that it was coming out December or January, he said at one point. And it was not clear watching the video whether that was based on something he actually knows or whether he was speculating, because there have been a few adjustments to this device since it was first announced. I think originally they were thinking of putting an earlier version of Android on it was one of the things that they changed. And they changed changed the color schemes from some of the early prototypes and a few other things.
Yeah. Some of the early color schemes were kind of rough.
Yeah.
I'm really glad they fixed this. Yeah. I will not be buying one of these. I know in my heart of hearts that this thing is not for me, just based on the size. Because when we're talking next portable console, portable is one of the most important words to me. But I'm really excited to hear what you guys think about it.
Hopefully soon.
I'm really excited. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Brendon, what is going on with your long lost friend, the Miyoo Mini Flip?
Man, okay. Let's go back. I'll truncate this story
2 years ago.
But let's go back to a year and a half ago, when Miyoo, not even Miyoo officially, but a Twitter account that seems to have inside information about what Miyoo's up to, just kind of unceremoniously mentions that they're working on a Game Boy Advance SP-like device, which this is like really in the throes of people being so unbelievably excited about the Miyoo Mini and the Miyoo Mini Plus. At this point, it's like Miyoo has had 2 devices total, and they're both absolute bangers. They can do no wrong. And when they release this SP-like device, it's going to be amazing. Fast forward 6 months, and they're saying, hey, this is coming out next month. Fast forward another 6 months, they're saying, hey, this is coming out next month. It's still not out. We're just seeing renders of the thing. We're seeing weird color schemes. We're seeing like a Pikachu edition that like obviously can't exist. We're seeing all of this stuff that really just kind of is like, you're just experimenting here. Like you're not. This thing is really nowhere near close to launch. Meanwhile, they do launch the Miyoo A30, which I think now is a device that people are really coming around on, but at launch was kind of disastrous in a lot of ways for a lot of people. We talked about it on the show. I have 2 units, both of which are faulty, so I've never really actually been able to use the thing and test it for myself, which I think says a lot in some ways. I also think this saving of the A30 has mostly been due to community support and not really due to Miyoo's actual input themselves. Things like Spruce and MinUI kind of saving that device from obscurity in a lot of ways. So alongside that, this guy launches the Anbernic RG35XXSP, which, immediately I think becomes one of the it devices of the year, and in a lot of ways just kind of swoops in and takes away a lot of the hype for the Miyoo Flip. But now, a year and a half later, there are marketing images for the Flip on Miyoo's website with like kind of no pomp and circumstance when that happened. Right after that same Twitter account that first kind of like leaked or announced the Miyoo Flip in the first place posted some images of the carrying case, the final hardware, and the packaging for this device. And then after that, they announced on their Twitter account that there is a Black Friday sale for Miyoo devices, along with a trailer for the Miyoo Flip with still no date attached to this at all. No specs, no pricing, no nothing. But it does feel like they are really gearing up to launch this thing relatively soon. I would guess with all of this, it's kind of a where there's smoke, there's fire situation. And with all of this stuff happening simultaneously, I really feel like they're trying to get it out before the holidays. I don't think that that's doable realistically with all of the holidays coming up around the world. But I mean, we're in a place where we're seeing official messaging from Miyoo about it. My feeling to make it as concise as possible is I'm excited to try it. Like at the end of the day, I'm excited to try it.
Yeah. What do you think the Flip could do better than the RG35XXSP?
I think just ergonomics and portability. The biggest thing about it that sets it apart for me is just that it's a little bit thinner overall. And that's more interesting to me. The thing is, that if you're putting these two launch devices against each other, the Miyoo Flip, whenever it launches with Miyoo's stock operating system, and Anbernic's RG35XXSP with its stock operating system, you have kind of a fair comparison to make between them. But now we are, 6 months into the SP existing, 8 months into the SP existing. We have things like Miyoo OS, which I think is at this point probably the best custom firmware you can get on any of these devices, in my opinion, at least. And the idea of getting a Miyoo Flip and then waiting for somebody to make some kind of custom operating system that's like similar to Onion OS or similar to Spruce or similar to Miyoo OS feels like something that a lot of people are going to not want to do compared to the SP, which will probably be even more on sale by the time the Miyoo Flip comes out. So it's definitely an uphill battle. I think it's going to be kind of a long game for the Miyoo Flip, in the same way that the A30 is kind of like gaining some support right now.
Right.
And in the same way that people are still recommending and buying the Miyoo Mini and the Miyoo Mini Plus. Like, for most people, I still recommend the Miyoo Mini Plus if they come to me and they ask me what device they should get as like an entryway into this hobby.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's like probably the best device to start with. Long term, the Flip might work out. I think short term, it's gonna get completely rocked by people on the internet. if I was to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I really, the only thing you can draw from those images is that it does look thinner, and that is something that's important. I mean, the SP that Anbernic put out is kind of chunky, and it's pretty deep device. It'd be interesting to see how big of a battery Miyoo can put in it if they're shaving off depth to it, because there's not a lot in that bottom half, not a lot of space there to put much of a battery in.
Yeah, it is from a processor standpoint, like the slightest bit more powerful than the SP, which I think might be appealing to some people as well. But at the end of the day, like, you're not going to buy this as one device to rule them all. It's not going to be the one thing that you have that plays everything that you want to play. I think people are always trying to push the upper limits of what they can push out of these devices. But yeah, we'll see. I'm very interested in what's going on here.
I don't know. I never fully fell in love with the SP. And I don't know, there's something about the Flip that I find more interesting. I don't know, maybe I think it's the analog.
Is it the analog?
I think it's that and the leanness, like relative to the SP. There's something that has always fascinated me about the Flip in a way that the SP never fully quite got me. So we'll see.
The one thing that gives me pause about the Miyoo Flip is that they changed the hinge design from the actual Game Boy Advance SP and the Anbernic SP, which just copies the Game Boy one pretty much straight up. The Miyoo Flip has like a totally different hinge design, and I think that's a thing that a lot of people are just kind of keeping an eye on. Like, all right, we'll see how reviewers feel about this. Is this the kind of thing that's going to start cracking, like the Retroid Pocket Flip did when that first launched?
John, speaking of Anbernic, I believe you collected a link.
I did. I was looking around on Reddit the other day, and I saw someone who had collected all of the Anbernic devices that have been released in 2024, and since we don't have a new Anbernic device,
we don't have one this week.
Episode of NPC.
It's Thanksgiving,
No, we don't. I guess so. But there have been a total of 11 Anbernic devices in 2024, which honestly, that is fewer than I would have guessed if I hadn't been thinking about it. I think I would have guessed like 16. Because it feels like they're on an average of maybe every 3 weeks or so. But we started out this list. We start out with the Anbernic RG35XXSP, which is a 4-inch horizontal Android handheld, and the most recent one being the RG35XXSP, which is a Linux-based, roughly $60 4x3 device with a 3.5-inch screen. So, and in between there, we've got. It's interesting just to see this because this chart, which I'll put in the show notes, says, how big the screens are, what the operating system is. And they've got there's a bit of a pattern here, I guess. You've got four Android devices and the rest are Linux.
If you ask me from the list, the stars of the year are clearly the SP and the RG Cube. I mean, my good friend the RG Cube is an incredible little device, and the SP. I mean, even though I don't completely love it, but it has been the conversation of the year in terms of what Anbernic put out.
Yeah. The 40XXV is quite good too, Federico. I know you don't have that one, but having that big of a screen is pretty nice.
Yeah, the 40XX series, I think it seems like the most interesting kind of avenue for growth. Like I would imagine going into 2025, we're going to see a lot more 40XX.
Yeah, especially if you get a slightly more powerful processor and these things that can drive more pixels and maybe do some of those higher end systems a little better.
Yeah, but I'm more interested in Anbernic making more Android devices.
Same.
Honestly, Federico, hearing your experience with the Cube just like really makes me want them to make like an SP with Android or something.
Guys, I have a Cube coming to me tonight. Because
do you?
One of my kids ordered a Cube, and Anbernic was kind enough to send him 2 instead of 1 for no apparent reason. So one of them's going to be mine. So I'm going to give it a try tonight.
And if there's one thing we all know about Anbernic is that we can't get in touch with them ever about anything. So we can't even send back your extra one that you sent us. Sorry,
exactly.
Anbernic.
Sorry, Anbernic.
Respond to our emails, and maybe we'll send it back.
Indeed. We'll consider this a review unit that we've asked for multiple times.
I'm really gonna like the Cube, John. I mean, I love the Cube. It's
all right. The screen aspect ratio is intriguing to me. Plus, I've kind of gravitated towards Android-based handhelds myself over the last couple of months.
I wanted to mention a couple more links before we talk about some other things on the show. The first one is this link that Brendon found for a patent that Samsung filed for a stay with me, a foldable handheld. Now imagine the Samsung Z Flip, which is the foldable phone that they have, like the flip phone that folds, but attached to the sides are controllers. So it's a handheld that folds in half, and you can put.
We're not talking clamshell here. We're talking about more like candy bar handheld, at least from what the patent drawing looks like.
I have no idea
style.
what to think, except that it looks cool, and that is one way to make a handheld more portable. For people like Brendon who really value portability. Well, what if see, Brendon likes things that close in half. So maybe.
Brendon's the P in portability, I think.
Sure.
Does that work?
Sure.
I don't think that works.
Sure.
I don't think that works.
We can go with that.
That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going with.
We can go with that.
Absolutely.
Right.
But yes. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's a Nintendo Switch by Samsung that folds. Cool.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it's worth looking at these patent images because okay, cool, it's got analog sticks, but then it's also got buttons that are depressed into the device. Which is fascinating. So instead of just having a D-pad and then 4 buttons,
they're like the Steam Deck touchpads almost.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Steam Deck touchpads, but it looks like there's actual places for you to press those buttons.
Yeah.
And my thought was they did that so they could make the profile of the device really flat so it fits into your pocket easily. But then they have analog sticks that jut out, so you're both saving space and then undoing that space saving simultaneously, which I find really strange. I'm so fascinated by this thing. I hope to God it sees the light of day because I'm so confused by it.
I'm gonna say something.
Shout out to Samsung.
If there's another company
Hit me.
that can make this happen for a really premium price, that's Ayn. Ayn is absolutely going to make this device at some point, and they're gonna charge you $2,000 for it.
And they'll put Windows 11 on it.
The battery lasts 20 minutes.
They'll try.
But at least it folds. The final thing I will mention is for whoever's been interested in following sort of a similar journey to mine in terms of a really powerful eGPU that you can connect to an ROG Ally or Legion Go. There is a much more accessible option that, although it hasn't come out yet, so I will advise waiting for reviews in late December to January, but keep an eye on it because it's interesting. So the company is called AOStar. They've been making eGPU accessories and other mini PCs for a while. They announced the AGO2. This is their second take on an eGPU dock. Now, this is interesting because you're getting this very compact eGPU dock that supports both Oculink and USB 4. So you can get one of those long USB 4 cables, like my King cable, for example, and attach it to this eGPU dock. It's got a built-in 500 watts power supply. So this means that you're getting this dock for a couple of $100, and it's all pre-built. You don't have to worry about anything, and you can connect up to an NVIDIA 4070 Super, which is a really good desktop class GPU. That it's not gonna cost you a fortune. It's got better performance than a standard 4070. It was really well reviewed earlier this year, and so I think for way less than $1,000, you can put together a setup that gives you incredible performance in an eGPU that doesn't require you to build anything yourself, like I had to do. Build the power, buy the power supply, buy the USB board, find the enclosure. You just get this thing. You get a 4070 Super. Right. You get a long USB cable. You can have an eGPU that allows you to do very comfortably 1440p gaming and also maybe some 4K depending on the game, but also gives you access to DLSS, for example, if you want to do upscaling. So really compelling package, but wait for reviews because this is only up for pre-order, and with these things, it's always better to wait for actual performance.
Yeah, agreed. You could spend as much on the King cable as you would on the dock, I think, here, Federico.
I know, right? Yes. Yeah.
It
could be used without a King cable too, just to be clear.
Can I ask a dumb question? When you take an eGPU and you just slap it onto a device like this, and it's just open to the elements, are you not concerned about dust getting into that thing?
My enclosure is actually enclosing the GPU. This is one of those, and I've seen a variety of these accessories where the B-Link has one.
B-Link
the GPU
has one
is just
too.
sort of there. I would say you gotta be extra careful. Put it in a space where there maybe wouldn't be a lot of dust. Maybe if you have pets at home, put it somewhere where not a lot of hair from your pets go. You gotta be way more careful, I would say. And obviously liquid damage, it's completely exposed to anything. So you can do it. I've seen people do it. I've seen people put these things with fancy RGB lights on a desk, for example. But you have to be very mindful of what you're doing because it's gonna work. It's just exposed to everything. So, pay attention to it. Yeah.
Okay. I would love to get something like this. I mean, specifically, I have the B-Link mini PC. I would love to get the B-Link eGPU dock. I think that'd be wonderful. I also, and I still haven't been able to explain it, live in the dustiest apartment I've ever lived in my whole life. It's unbelievable the amount of dust that accumulates in this apartment in particular.
Get an
freaks me
enclosure
out
there.
when it comes to a device like this.
Yeah.
Get it totally enclosed.
Yeah, so this is interesting, and obviously, as Brendon mentioned, it's also going to work with mini PCs that have Oculink. Although with Oculink and eGPUs, I think I mentioned this before, but the way Oculink works is if you want to use the external graphics card, you gotta power on the mini PC or the handheld with Oculink and the eGPU at the same time. You cannot hot swap with an eGPU based on Oculink like you can with USB 4, which is just plug and play. That's the way the Oculink is designed because it goes straight into the NVMe connection of the motherboard. So, keep that in mind. But yeah, this is interesting, and it comes out in a couple of months. All right.
Sounds good.
What do we have? I see we have... Okay.
We've got a couple of topics.
And I also have a bit of a surprise, but I'll let Brendon go first because this is, we have more SP content, I believe. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. Here's the deal. I have just been trying to get myself back into the SP a little bit. I have the Odin 2 Mini, which is the thing that I've been bringing with me pretty much every day as I'm commuting. But I felt like using that so much was pushing me to just use it for everything, which I think is good, to be clear. Like if you're out there and you want a device like that, I think that's, a great entry. But we have this podcast. I want to be testing stuff. I want to be like trying new things more often than not. So I was like, let me get the SP out again. Let me start bringing it to work more frequently. And I did a thing that I was surprised to have done, which is I finally updated MooOS to MooOS Banana, which is the most recent version of MooOS. I think my thing with a lot of these devices, and I'm curious how you guys feel about this, is I will tinker and tinker and tinker away. But if I get a thing working and I like the way it works, I don't touch it. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to worry about this anymore. Yeah. So I was using like a test build of the previous version of MooOS on my SP. Like one of the first ones that they released for the SP, I was like, everything works fine. I'm not touching this. It's totally good. But I was like, let me upgrade to MooOS Banana. I keep seeing that people like it a lot. They changed a bunch of things, like the underlying infrastructure of how MooOS works. I already said this, but I really already thought that MooOS was probably one of the best firmwares that exist for any of these kinds of devices. I doubly feel that now that I've upgraded to this newest version. It's amazing. It includes a bunch of stuff that I think like really makes a huge difference. One thing, for example, is SyncThing, which is an app that you can run on any device that's running MooOS, but also get on a bunch of other devices, which just seamlessly, whenever you're connected to the internet, syncs your saves between all your devices. As long as you have the same ROM library, it just knows what ROMs you're playing, what saves to move over back and forth. It feels very much like Steam Cloud in that way, where it's like I could be playing on my PC, pick up on my Steam Deck, no problem. That's cool by itself. But at the end of the day, I just really wanted to try, and this is a weird thing, but I wanted to try playing more DS games on here. I've been building a list, which maybe I'll bring to the show when I'm done with it. It's going to take a lot of testing. It's going to take a long time to put this list together. But I've been working on a list of the best DS games to play with a single screen.
Interesting.
Just because like having both screens on a screen like this just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
No.
But I was like, I know there are some games that work. Pokemon, obviously, no-brainers. Dragon Quest, obviously, no-brainers. Games like Mario Kart DS are wonderful with one screen. The nice thing about MooOS Banana is that Drastic, which is the DS emulator that they use, automatically maps the R2 button to swap screens. So while you're playing any game, if you need to see the other screen for any reason, like if you're playing Mario Kart and you want to see how much you're winning by, or if there's a blue shell on the way, you can just press R2 real quick, swap the screens, see where you're at on the map, press it again and swap back and keep driving. And I've been enjoying that a lot more than I thought I was going to, if I'm being totally honest. I'm like pretty blown away by how much I'm enjoying the SP now. But this led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole because the SP is one of many 35XX devices by Anbernic. We just talked about the 11 devices they've released this year. A big chunk of them were 35XX devices. Right. There's the 28XX, which is like their little micro one. There's the vertical one, or actually there are two versions of the vertical one. There's one and then there's a plus one. But the other one that they released and one that I picked up was the 35XXH. Which is their horizontal version of the same device. And the reason I picked this up is because I wanted to kind of throw back to the very first one of these devices that I had ever picked up, which is the Anbernic RG35XXSP. The device that I used. Yes, it's an amazing device. It still feels great in the hand. And is the device I used to play pretty much every Game Boy Advance game for an episode of Into the Aether that we did. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be fun to have an upgraded version of that? Wouldn't it be cool to have a version of that runs MooOS and has all of the things that have popped up over the past couple of years in this hobby, and just kind of get like a straight upgrade to this thing? So I picked up the 35XXH just as a point of comparison because I was kind of curious if this would feel better in the hand over longer sessions. And if there were really any differences between these 35XX devices, like, is there a world in which, you're deciding between these two and it really just comes down to form factor over everything else? The answer is pretty much yes. I do think in terms of pocketability, and this is funny that we just talked about that Samsung thing, the analog sticks do make all the difference for me. Like the analog sticks are the thing that prevents me from just putting this in my pocket if I'm like wearing jeans or something, which is, I think, a pretty huge differentiator. I've also noticed, and I've been talking to some people on the Miyoo OS Discord about this, DS performance is different on this device than it is on the SP.
Really?
And yes, and a large portion of that is due to Drastic over everything else. As it turns out, Drastic has an issue where over longer sessions, we're talking like 15 to 30 minutes, which is not that long, but if you're playing for that long, you'll start to get some pretty noticeable input lag sometimes, not always, but sometimes, where the actual game is not slowing down, but the input between the controller and the game itself will take a long time.
Does it depend on the game, or does it depend on the hardware? Do you know?
I think it's hardware specific, because I don't have this problem at all on the SP. I do have it on the H, which has definitely been a little bit of a bummer, but it hasn't really stopped me from really enjoying this device a lot. So I think at the end of the day, like if you are a person looking to get one of these devices, if you have a Steam Deck and you're like, I want something else that I can, it's a little more portable that I can use to emulate some kind of like lower powered games, I don't really think you can go wrong with any of the XX devices as they stand at the moment. But I think what all of this testing has done is kind of drawn me back to the SP in a big way. I think, believe it or not, and I know this goes against everything that we just talked about, but I do think the chunkiness of the SP, despite making it a little less portable, does make it significantly more comfortable in the hand because of the way your hands wrap around the back and rest on the
there's plenty of room for
triggers.
your fingers, basically.
Yes. The shoulder buttons just feel really good to press in a way that they really don't on this device, where I feel like I kind of need to like angle myself around to be able to press L2 and R2 and L1 and R1. But, you know, it really depends on what you want to be playing, right? Like, I think that's the biggest question you have to ask yourself when you're looking for one of these devices is what games are you actually going to play on this thing? Because it's very easy to just buy a bunch of these devices and then set them up and then never play anything on them. But when you consider actually playing, I think thinking about what games in particular you want to go through should inform the device that you choose to play. So for me right now, it's the SP. I do have another device that's in the mail at the moment that I'm excited to talk about when it comes in. I don't mind saying it's the Trim UI Brick, which I've had an extremely fun time getting in my hands. I'll talk about that maybe when it comes in, what that process has been like. But it's in the mail, hopefully right now. So maybe by the next episode I'll be able to talk about it. But I think if you're going to get one of these devices, get a 35XX, any of them, put Miyoo OS on it, and you're going to be very happy. I think
it's so good, Federico. You definitely should. Because I did the banana upgrade too, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's a nice upgrade from what they had before. It's really it's become a mature operating system essentially now. It's like you don't run into as many edge case glitches and things that you maybe did in the early versions. Yeah,
I gotta be honest too. Like, you know, when the SP came out, there were a lot of other options, and there are a lot of other options, right? Like Noli is one that a lot of people talk about.
Yep.
But there's something about seeing the Miyoo OS team and the way they communicate and the way they iterate and the ways in which they've even like monetized themselves, you know, by allowing people to donate for access to test releases, to beta, like all of that stuff felt to me, even early on, like right when the SP came out, felt to me like a team that was going to go the distance and make something that's like really special. And not to like toot my own horn, but I just feel like at that moment, looking at the bevy of options that we had, it was like Miyoo OS is the one you should be investing in, definitely long term. I think Noli is great for a lot of people who are really, really, really in the weeds and maybe came from devices like the 31 or like the 351p, but like, man, is Miyoo OS just the operating system I would hand to anybody. Like when the holidays come around, and I don't know if these people are watching, but I'm going to be buying a bunch of SPs for people, and I'm going to put Miyoo OS on them, and they're going to know what to do without me needing to tell them. Yeah, it's perfect for doing that kind of gift giving. I think that's absolutely right. It's you go to their Discord, it's unbelievably vibrant place. I mean, you can tell that there's just a lot going on, and they're selling merch and doing all kinds of things to kind of keep this project alive and moving, which is really nice. Yes. because that's the thing that kills a lot of these long term, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it's one person and they get burnt out doing it all themselves, and people demand things of them, et cetera, et cetera. But honestly, and I know it seems silly to say maybe, but the fact that they are monetizing it this early and making merch and things like that incentivizes the developers to keep working in a lot of ways. You know, it is work that they are putting in, and they're now being compensated for that work. And that's going to probably make a better product long term. And long term is the goal here. And getting it on more devices,
I'm gonna
et
try
cetera,
I'm gonna try MooOS.
is wonderful.
See if I like it more. We're gonna talk about the Retroid Pocket 5, but before we do that, I have one
I'm so
thing
stoked
to share. Now, this is if you're listening to the audio version of NPC, now would be a great time to just switch to the video version just for a couple of minutes. I'm gonna grab something from my desk that's been sitting here the whole time.
We will do our best to recreate this in the show notes. I don't even know what this surprise is, but hopefully you can give me an image or something.
Yes, I can give you an image. And I mean, if you know me, I think you know this is a pretty obvious surprise.
Oh yeah,
It's the white limited edition Steam Deck OLED. So yeah.
Oh my god,
you couldn't resist. Oh, that does look really nice.
It looks really nice,
Obviously,
and you put Dragon Quest 11 on it.
It's my
it's just for me.
The game I've been playing most this year.
Light gray buttons,
light gray,
and sticks,
orange button. Yeah.
Ooh, I love the orange button.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I that's a nice touch, even with the black one. I think it's a great touch.
It's very nice.
Yes, absolutely.
I like it.
I just love it. The moment I saw it, I knew it was gonna be hard to resist getting one. And so, as with many things I do these days, I am in the process of selling my black Steam Deck. And just
you're gonna just have to open a Shopify store or something, Federico, and then maybe we can you and all your friends can dump things on it, and we can all ship worldwide.
Basically what I'm doing. But yeah, it's got light gray buttons. It comes. Let me see if I can grab it actually without causing too much of a mess. I love the carrying case. It's very nice.
Oh, that's really nice.
A strap here, and it also comes inside. It comes with a white polishing cloth, as well as this very cool looking. Yeah, it's got all it's the same thing that they have on the package of the Steam Deck. It's got basically sentences in all kinds of languages for all the places where you can play a Steam Deck. So, for example, it says in a submarine, in the kitchen, on the patio. I assume this is French. À l'aéroport, which means at the airport. It's very cool looking, all black and white, and of course, it's a white carrying case. Whenever possible, I got a white iPad, obviously the PS5 Pro. I really like the white device aesthetic, like Brendon mentioned, like very NASA punk aesthetic. It goes well with my furniture, which is something that I really value. And so this white Steam Deck, it's gonna be the Steam Deck. I've really rediscovered the Steam Deck over the past couple of months, and not just because of Dragon Quest. And I think we mentioned this before, but just the balance that Valve found in terms of performance, portability, price, ease of use with SteamOS.
Ease of use is a really big one. I think you spend a lot less time fiddling with the Steam Deck than you do most devices.
Brendon just mentioned, like, a bunch of people buy these handhelds and they set them up, they tinker around with them, but they never actually play games. And the Steam Deck is the opposite. You just spend the time playing games on it, which is what matters.
Right.
And I'm just looking at the OLED screen now from a distance. It looks incredible.
You can spend a lot of time on a Steam Deck downloading updates to your game.
Can.
So that's the one thing that nobody has really figured out.
It's a white Steam Deck and it looks great. That's just my surprise.
Yeah, that's really
Speaking
nice.
of OLED screens, John and I have it right here. We have the
I've got mine too.
Retroid Pocket 5.
Look what I did to mine, Federico. Look at that wallpaper I put on there that I found on
you got the
Reddit.
GameCube color, first of all.
Yeah, I did. I got the GameCube color,
nice.
and I got this kind of circular Retroid Pocket wallpaper that I found on Reddit yesterday, and kind
It
of
kind of
Nice.
looks like the Xbox 360. home
it does a
screen.
little bit. It
kinda
does
looks
a little
like
bit.
that.
Yeah, and I just got everything all laid out and arranged on there. And this screen is unbelievable. It's
The screen
really
is great. The screen is great. So I do want to talk about this device a little bit. I think, John, I don't know how you set it up. I have kept a pretty vanilla installation of Android. I just wanted to get things going and just start using it. So
Yeah.
for the past 5 or so days, I have been almost exclusively using it for PlayStation 5 streaming.
okay.
That's all I've done with it. And I've seen some Call of Duty as well as primarily Astrobot, which I want to finish before the end of the year. And so here's what I will say about the Retroid Pocket 5. It feels really good in the hands. Like
Yep.
it feels really nice.
I think the
ergonomics
size,
are-
the size is
si-
amazing to me. This is like a really
It's-
good Goldilocks kind of size.
for my taste, it's slightly more ergonomic than the Odin 2 Mini. I still feel with my hands, I still gravitate more. As you can see, like I can completely sort of wrap around it. I still gravitate more toward like something like a Steam Deck or
Mhm.
something like the upcoming Odin Portal. Like bigger devices, I think are traditionally more comfortable for me. But in the smaller category, something like this, I find more than acceptable for my taste. The screen is like, it's a really good quality OLED. It's up there with the Nintendo Switch OLED. The Nintendo Switch OLED, I don't know what Nintendo did. Maybe it's how they calibrated the display. The Nintendo Switch OLED, in my opinion, is still the best OLED display you can get. Followed by the Steam Deck, and now this Retroid Pocket 5. I think this is on par with the Steam Deck OLED. I mean, in terms of image quality, obviously the sizes are different.
Yeah.
The screen is incredible. I am I'm a big fan of the buttons, how the buttons feel, the D-pad, the front-facing buttons. They're not too clicky, which is what I appreciate. They feel kind of similar to a Steam Deck in terms of noise, which is something that I really value when I play at night. I don't want to bother my girlfriend with buttons that are too clicky. What I am not convinced about right now, and I think John agrees with me, is the placement of the sticks.
Yeah,
This is a D-pad centric device with
Yeah.
the D-pad at the top and both sticks at the bottom.
I'm not just not convinced. I think that this is bad placement. I really
Well-
don't. I don't think it's good. I mean, you're right. And that's coming from somebody who is going to probably play more D-pad centric games on this. It's totally fine if you're doing D-pad centric games. I agree with that completely. But the sticks, while they don't really get necessarily in the way, it's just not great when you're doing something like the streaming you were talking about, Federico, right? I mean, if you're playing Astrobot, this is not a great layout if you're playing a game like Astrobot.
Exactly.
I don't think.
Exactly.
I played some Xbox cloud gaming. I did more of that than I did streaming from my PS5. And I just found it to be a little bit awkward. They don't really get in the way, though. Like, if you are playing a D-pad game, I think it's totally acceptable. It's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah.
It's just that I would have preferred the left stick to be above the D-pad.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing about this device. Oh, also I wanted to mention excellent Wi-Fi performance.
Yeah.
It's been one of the best experiences I've had with the PX Play, which is the Android app for streaming PlayStation 5. Rock solid Wi-Fi performance in different rooms of the house. So really impressed there. Despite the size, it must have a really really good antenna for Wi-Fi. And I also appreciate obviously that it's got the headphone jack at the bottom, just next to the USB-C port. But the big, for me at least, sort of paradox of this device is that you have a premium 16:9 handheld, well, premium relative to what Retroid makes, but you got this 16:9 form factor, OLED display. It's the kind of device that you look at it and you think, well, this lends itself well to modern style games, not
Right.
necessarily Game Boy or Super Nintendo or more D-pad centric games, but the design still prioritizes the D-pad over the sticks. And so I kind of wonder if maybe, given the form factor, given the premium feel, given the display, the left stick maybe should have been above. And that is, for me, given the the size and everything, it is the only weakness of this device is the placement of the D-pad. And because otherwise, I really, really like everything else about it. Like,
I think putting the left stick up top would have also been better for Android games. I mean, what I've put on here is I've put my ROMs to do emulation, but I also downloaded a bunch of Android games just to see what they were like, because Netflix games has the same lineup basically that they have on iOS. So I downloaded Braid and a bunch of other.
I never thought about doing that.
I downloaded about a dozen classic games that are on Netflix games, as well as Zenless Zone Zero. Now, I haven't played a lot of Android games on this yet. I'm about 2 days behind Federico on when I got delivery of this. I got it Friday late afternoon, and I spent most of the weekend setting it up. And haven't played a lot of games yet, other than the streaming from Xbox Cloud Gaming, which I found to be really good. I mean, I actually haven't played Xbox Cloud in a while, and I felt like the quality of the stream I was getting was superior to what I was getting many months ago. And maybe they've upgraded their servers, maybe they're closer to where I live now, but I was getting a much better experience playing games on that than I have in a long time. And then I installed the ESDE emulation station on this thing for Android. You have to join their Patreon, which is like $5.50. It's just a one-time thing you can drop off, and you can still update it after that. But that allows you to download the software. And so I've got, like, here's the 3DS. Nice. There's Luigi's Mansion. It's just, you've got a lot of different themes that you can add here, and it does a great job as a front end, organizing your ROMs and giving you a really nice entry into it. The thing that's too bad right now is, I guess because of the way it is designed as an app, it cannot do like Daijisho style load immediately when you turn the device on, which there's some tricks you can try. I know that there was some of that in Retro Game Core's video about how you can do that in some instances, but I haven't done that because I'm going to be doing more than just playing my emulated games anyway. I'm going to be doing some more streaming as well as the Android games. So I just have it. I'm just accessing it from, the home screen on the Android device.
Yeah, I tried doing that with the Odin 2 Mini and found that emulation station as a front end for Android just kind of wasn't for me versus something like Daijisho, which I think feels a lot more well-rounded and also just got updated. So works again, which is nice.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I haven't used it as much on this device yet. I did install it. I think that one of the things that Daijisho does really well is that it integrates well with Android in terms of what you can do with the, accessing your other apps and accessing the settings for Android and all of that. So I can definitely see that. I just love the way emulation station looks more than anything else, I think.
Yeah.
I love a lot of those themes.
Yeah. So the Retroid Pocket 5, I mean, it's a really good device. Personally, I am still anticipating the Odin Portal because I don't put the P in portable like Brendon does. But
portable for the home. You put the P in the portable for home, which I think that's what that device is all about. Yeah, you're not going to take that out of your apartment that often, I would suspect. I know I'm not going to probably travel with mine that much either, but we'll see. We'll see.
I'm on one hand I'm surprised, and on one hand it's kind of reassuring. This is kind of the response I was expecting from the Retroid Pocket 5 in some ways, and is kind of the reason I didn't order one for myself in the first place. Like, I think it's a really beautiful device. I think a lot of people will be very happy with it if they order one. I think where I'm sitting right now with the devices that I already own, I don't think it's really one that I need or will replace anything that I currently own.
Right.
The same way I think the Portal will for you guys. Like, I think when you guys get the Portal, that is like so geared towards exactly what you guys are looking for. The thing about the Retroid Pocket 5, honestly, that really was the most interesting to me, and the reason I was considering ordering one in the first place is, I mean, Federico, you have the black one. The all glass front, kind of masking where the screen ends and begins on the OLED model or the OLED screen.
You can also see my fingerprints, obviously, but
yeah,
that's what I'm looking for with the. That's what I'm looking forward to with the Portal myself, because I got the black Portal, but with this one I decided to go like with the crazy GameCube colors. So.
Yeah, but I'm happy you guys are enjoying it. and a little piece of me is happy that you guys are more excited about the Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we did it. I think that's an episode. We did it again.
Can I add some late breaking news that I just found?
What happened?
Sure.
Is it the Sunday Dragon?
The Switch 2 was announced, babe. No.
Oh my God, you got me.
Don't
for
do
a
that to
second.
me. Don't do that to me.
It is Switch related. The Nintendo Switch eShop is shutting down in China in March of 2026. They're gonna be terminating online services and the ability to buy games by 2026. Which
Okay.
very interesting.
it-
I would assume it's mostly because the rules around gaming changed
Yeah.
so rapidly
Yeah. Yes.
over there that it was hard to release the Switch there in the first place. Maybe people remember at one point NVIDIA was the only company that was selling a video game console in China for a while, and Nintendo games were launching on that NVIDIA console,
Right.
which is pretty wild. So the Switch, it hasn't been around that long. The Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee games just launched over there semi-recently as well. A nice thing that they are doing, though, on their way out is they're just giving everyone with an active Nintendo account a free game before the thing shuts down. I think because, everyone was kind of anticipating a much longer life cycle for the Switch once it finally launched there. But very interesting news.
Wow.
All right.
All right, everybody. Well, that's your late breaking news. We will be
That's your
back.
late-breaking
I
news.
think we are going to have to, Federico, cover this topic of iPhone and iPad game controllers next time around, because Brendon and I did promise people that on App Stores.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
So we can't.
I can give people a here. Wait, let me turn off this weird blur. I can show people this.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I have it too. It's the cracked white translucent rectangular controller, which is in the Apple Store.
I'll show it to people now. We can talk about it next time. How
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, we've got a lot of. I've got so many iOS controllers. I've got lots.
Do you, John?
I've got lots of opinions about them too, and I know
Even more
Federico
late
does, too.
breaking news.
Yeah, exactly. All right, everybody. Well, we'll wrap it up there. You can find Brendon over at wavelengths.online. You'll find all of his stuff there, including his writing and links to his YouTube videos and all that sort of thing. You can also find him as Brendon Bigley in most places in terms of social media. Mastodon, Blue Sky, Threads, all the usual places. Federico and I are over at MacStories.net writing. You can find us on the Mac Stories YouTube channel too, as well as this show, which is on the Mac Stories YouTube channel. Federico and I are in all the usual social places too. Federico is at Viticci. It's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening.